continue to do what I'm doing, walking the community, meeting the residents, and first of all, open the doors to the office and make myself accessible to the people in the community.
How do you plan to garner dollars for your programs?
I couldn't hear you.
I beg your pardon. How do you plan to garner dollars for your programs?
Well, we will look to residents to start entrepreneur businesses of their own instead of looking to have other corporations come in and take care of us. If the alderman makes $115,000 a year, we cannot live off minimum wage. The average resident cannot live off minimum wage. So we need to bring in companies, or we need to start our own businesses that are going to be feasible for us and our families, that are going to give us fair wages. Walmart is not the answer, but we need to look at corporations and businesses that are going to pay us fair dollars for our work.
The 7th Ward and the 4th District have gone through unsettling changes, crime and violence being perpetrated on its community members, and in some cases, very policing stuff here. How do you plan to address the policing strategies with the police department and work in the boundaries of the staff you already have in place?
Well, being a victim of police brutality, I would make the police accountable. Let's not hold back here. We know the liquor stores that are selling drugs and guns to our young men. I would shut those stores down immediately. We know these things. We see it, and we walk past as if we don't see it.
The 7th Ward has an automatic menu. Would you be amenable to a participatory budget?
I would look into it. I would work with whoever I could to make sure I could sustain some type of outlook or input into that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ms. Henry. Please tell us about your past community and civic involvement in the 7th Ward and how you would apply that to the automatic office.
Once again, I want to thank you and Edge for hosting the forum, and it's been just a pleasure. I'm the last person, so it's just been a pleasure to listen to everybody and get to know better everyone's positions. My experience in the 7th Ward started. Well, I have a lot of experience in community and community development, and my background is as a nonprofit, as an educator, first as a Chicago Public Schools teacher, and as an associate director and a director of nonprofits that serve young people across the city and empower them to get involved with politics, as well as be able to address issues in their schools and communities and make change. And so my passion is young people, ages 14 to 17 in particular, and I believe in their leadership development, and that would have to be a part of anything that I do anywhere. So that's what led me to my first experience in the 7th Ward in the community back in 2006 when I joined the local school council, where I was elected as a community representative of the local school council for the South Shore School of Entrepreneurship. And I have to say, that was not the best experience of my life. It was very disorganized. We were very, I felt that the parents and the community members didn't have enough training to really manage the budget. It was going through a leadership crisis at the school. We needed a new principal. Nobody knew how to hire one. And it was hard. And I remember not having the training and not having the confidence to take care of that really made me feel very concerned about the neighborhood and about the way that people can get these positions but not necessarily be prepared to lead effectively in them. So I think that in being the alderman, I want to make sure that people in the community had leadership development experiences and the training to do all the programs that we want them to be involved in doing. This would be extremely important to me. And also, a year ago, after my house was broken into twice within 3 months, I brought all of my friends together who lived in South Shore, so both in the 5th and the 7th Ward. I brought them over to my house because I'm like, I'm not leaving. I'm not going to get run out of my house. So I really need you all to have my back, and I want to have your back. And part of that is us just getting to know each other and really thinking critically about what the issues are in the community and how we can come together to create solutions for the community. And so we kept meeting. Every month we meet in different people's homes. And I come from a place where I believe that, and I work right now for an organization that believes that Black people in particular draw strength from 4 particular institutions and many others, but 4 particular institutions, and that helps them feel like they're strong and they feel supported. And those institutions are the church, the extended family, the HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities, and Black fraternities and sororities. We're not saying that everybody needs to be part of those things to feel supported, but what we see now is a lot of people of color, and especially Black people, who feel like they can make a change and feel like they are empowered, can look back to one or more of those institutions. A strong family, a strong church, and strong community organizations, or a strong community college, a college that is filled with other people that look like them, and they draw strength from that. And we think that those things, those places are not just special just because, but they're special because they offer 4 different ways of being in those places. They offer the opportunity not just to build community, bring food, people eat together, they break bread together, they get to know each other about who we're doing in reclaiming in the beginning, but they also are affirming. They're places where people could go and be told that they're beautiful and that they're smart and that they can do anything they want to do. And a lot of times when we are interacting with young people here in the streets, we talk a lot about the community needs to do this and we need to get engaged and we need to do this. But sometimes I watch even us as adults, when we talk to young people, we're always telling them what they need to do better, what they're doing wrong, how they need to pull up their pants and do all these things. Those are not affirming words. That's not affirming language, right? So really, how can we really take on the practice of being more affirming? So in addition to being community building and affirming, we need to provide spaces that are power building. And so with Reclaiming, we started the Sack Sandy campaign, right? Some of you may have heard of it. It was a hashtag Sack Sandy campaign. We were frustrated with Sandy Jackson's lack of presence in the ward. And just the fact that, because of our own personal issues, was asleep at the wheel. And this ward suffered tremendously because of that. But we have to be accountable for one another. So when you're driving with somebody and they're starting to fall asleep at the wheel, you have to push them, you can tell them to pull over, let me drive, right? And so I think it was responsible of her, and it was good for the ward for her to resign, and it's time for someone else to drive. So power building and accountability is part of those 4 institutions as well. We don't just let people, when we go to HBCUs or we're in fraternities and sororities, we have a brotherhood and a sisterhood, and we feel like we are connected to those people. So we nudge them if they fall asleep at the wheel, right? We hold each other accountable. And finally, we need spaces healing spaces. And so for me, we'll talk about it when we talk about public safety, but it's very important that we understand that people are murdering people because they are sick. They are ill. They are hurting. And so hurt people, right? So we have to be able to find a way to make the spaces in our communities emulate those of those 4 institutions and make sure that they're healing spaces, they're affirming spaces, they're community building spaces, and they're power building spaces. They have accountability. And so that is what I've learned from Reclaiming, and I will certainly take that with me if I were able to be the alderman of this board honored with that position.
Thank you for that. The 7th Ward has an automatic menu. Would you be amenable to a participatory budget for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very impressed with the other aldermen in the city who have taken on this practice. Leslie Harrison is one of them who does participatory budget hearings. I think it's important that those are structured and that the community is informed and they understand what are all the options that are available for using the money. And, really, budgets on the national level are participatory, if we want to put it that way, and that's why we see a lot of pork. So it'd be really important that we structured it so we wouldn't have people just saying, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to the meeting so I can get my block to look nice, right? I get my trash to be picked up. I would really want to make sure that at those participatory budget hearings that people were thinking about the collective and not just their own areas. So definitely participatory budget, without a doubt.
Can you share with us what your views are for the Lakeside Expansion Project and how you would collaborate with neighboring aldermen to bring that project to fruition?
Absolutely. I agree with one of the previous applicants in saying that even though the 7th Ward doesn't have direct access to Lakeside, it is in control of all of the thoroughfares, Lakeshore Drive, 75th, 79th, 83rd. So we absolutely have a stake in that, and I'm in support of job set-asides for people in the 7th Ward, at least 20% of jobs that are available to people in the 7th Ward. It should be given first priority to those people. And if we are not trained for those, making sure that we have job training programs that align with the types of jobs that will be available as the development happens. If we're going to have 40 years of development, we should have 40 years of jobs tied to that. And I did reach out, actually. I've been trying to learn more about the plans and the phases. I think it's really important that the community has regular hearings about each phase of that project so everyone does know what's happening. And it's not just go to the YouTube and go look at a video.
How do you plan to implement social service needs specific to our ward, like workforce development, homelessness, and homeowner foreclosure prevention needs?
I do think that it is the responsibility of the alderman to be connected to all of the social services, but not necessarily be the sole provider of the social services. It's really important that the alderman is resourceful and is able to connect to things that are working around the city and use those models and adapt them to the needs of the residents in the 7th Ward. So, for instance, there's the Chicago Coalition for the Homeless that has done some outstanding work in other neighborhoods in the city to curb the homelessness problem. I would certainly reach out to my friends there to talk to them about what can be done in the 7th Ward. Regarding workforce development, there's some great entrepreneurship programs, social entrepreneurship programs, and business entrepreneurship programs. I would really want to make sure that we were supporting partnerships with colleges and with other entities. I know that they do a lot at South Shore Connects and the 5th Ward to make sure that those programs grow and can attract more dollars to make sure that they thrive. And then you said homelessness, economic development, what was the third? Foreclosure. So I know Sharon, I see Sharon Lewis here, L-O-U-I-S here, and she knows a lot about, and I've been reading up as well about the recent Cook County Land Bank that was passed in the City Council. I think it's important, again, for the residents to know about that opportunity. It's only $1 million in that fund right now, but how to leverage that to make sure that we were able to have some of the foreclosed homes in the 7th Ward be a part of that program.
And lastly, the 7th Ward and the 4th District have gone through an unsettling change with crime and violence being perpetrated on its community members, and in some cases, the very police who serve here. How do you plan to address the policing strategies within the police department and work within the boundaries of staff we already have in place?
This question really means a great deal to me because I feel that we really need to think differently about policing and public safety, and I believe one of the things that we need to learn more about is restorative justice practices. I'm a trained circle keeper. I was trained by the Community Justice for Youth Initiative. I would love to see 40 more community leaders in the first year that I'm alderman trained as circle keepers, and those people were already connected to institutions and in their neighborhood who are able to hold healing circles as well as community response circles for young people or people who have committed misdemeanors to divert them and not give them arrest records that then make them ineligible to work, right? So things like property damage, criminal property damage, loitering, trespassing. Many of these cases, 75% of them are misdemeanors of the arrest and the being misdemeanors. Many of them, almost 90% of them, end up getting thrown out of court if the person who charges them doesn't show up, right? But then you have a person who has an arrest record, and then they're ineligible to work. So, and they haven't necessarily been way that treats the problem at its root, which is why are they in trouble in the first place. So we have issues around poverty and issues around mental illness and lack of education. Yeah, we can provide schools, we can provide jobs, but what is it about our spirits that need to be spoken to? How can we meet as a community and really have people who are trained to hold that space for people who are committing crimes, so that they think again before they have a crime again. I can't think of the word. Before they do any of those things, before they go again, before they trespass again.
Recidivism.
Right, recidivism, exactly. I mean, once a person is in the system, it's 80% chance that they're going to commit another crime. That was the word. And so how do we get them in a place where they have other options and that they really do know their neighbors because they've had positive interactions with their neighbors, not just after the fact, but they've had positive interaction with their neighbors, and there's a community accountability around that crime. So when my house was broken into, I felt, of course, you feel violated, you feel afraid, all of those things, but I also felt like, well, what am I doing to make this a neighborhood, a place where a person doesn't need to break into my home? What is my responsibility in this? So I really feel like we have to start thinking that way, and then more police are not the answer, but engaging police in that process, in being part of the community response, and really letting police off the hook for having to deal with so many of the cases that don't go anywhere anyway, right? Give them an opportunity to divert those cases to community panels and let people who have committed those crimes have a different outcome that we're all responsible for. So restorative justice is really important to me. I've been in contact with the state's attorney's office, and Area 2 is they see all the cases that are reported in districts 3 and 4, and I really want to get to know the people who are involved with running CAPS now that it's supposedly decentralized. The CAPS lives up to its name, and it is alternative policing. Truly, it's not just the same. So, thanks. That's all the time. Sorry.
Thank you so very much.
I didn't think I was going to take it all up.
I have one community stakeholder that I think is very important that you all meet, Pastor Ford. Pastor Ford has been so gracious as to give us all of the space and give us this time to be here this evening. A community leader. Thank you.
Well, we're the church. We're that one institution that she was talking about. And we like to see some changes. And, personally, I haven't been involved that much because I'm called to be a pastor, so I'm taking care of the flock. And but I'm here tonight. We've opened up because we're concerned about what's going on in our neighborhood, in our communities. And listen, the church in most communities is the most stable institution in the community. And not only are we concerned about the social issues, but we believe that many of them have a moral base, that we need to begin to start in our homes and begin to teach our families, begin to put the men back into the homes and begin to mentor our boys and teach them how to be men, rites of passage, where they understand that, a real man is somebody who takes care of the baby that he had. That a real man is somebody who gets a job and takes care of his family. And so we're excited about what's happening in our ward, and we're trusting that we're going to be able to work together, and many of the churches come together and join hands with those who are in the political arena to bring our particular forte to the front and see this thing turned around. Let me just share this real quick. We talk about drugs and violence and those kind of things. I remember some 18 years ago, as a matter of fact, you were one of the deacons then, Brother Strahan, and we came out of Bible study before we built our new church, and we were coming out of Bible Bible study, we had to hit the ground because they used to sell drugs right out here, and they were trying to shoot the brother who was standing out there. And of course, bullets were coming our way as we're coming out of Bible study. And the next day we had a deacons meeting, and one of our deacons, Thomas, said this. We're saying, what are we going to do? He said, let's take our corner. And so that night we went out, and there were 9 of us. We surrounded the young man that was selling the drugs on that corner and told him, listen, this is our corner. You got to find another place. We're going to be out here every car that buys off of you. We're going to take their license plate number. We're going to stand here, and everybody that buys drugs, we're going to see who they are. We're going to call the cops every time. There hasn't been any drugs sold on that corner since that day. And so what we need to do is we got to stand up, and we have to take our community back is what we have to do. One more quick story. It's a true story. It happened in the animal world. I don't know how many of you watched, but I watched that. And these bull elephants were killing these rare white rhinoceroses. And they tried to find out why. Well, they were running. So what they did was went to another reserve, brought in some grown bull elephants to run with the young bull elephants, and the rhinoceroses stopped being killed. We used to have a program here called Impact Ministries where we had 150 kids in the after-school program. And we've gone back now 25 years later, and we've got individuals who are doctors, who are in the military, all of that because there was concern that we inculcate these individuals and begin to let them see that there's something better in life than what they're doing. So we're excited about it, and we're trusting that whomever is going to become the alderman of this ward, that there'll be somebody that wants to join corporately together. And because many hands make light work, if we can get things started and not try to reduplicate it and keep us pastors from fighting with each other about members, we can get something done in this community. So thank you very much.